Hello out there in YouTube world. Today I decided to give Roxy a haircut, and it's storming right now. I hope the thunder doesn't bother you. If it gets too bad, I'll stop and do it when this is over. But it's a much welcomed thunderstorm, and it was about 107, I think, before it started. I ran out and mowed a couple areas of the yard, which amounted to about an acre, and I gave up because it was starting to sprinkle. But anyway, today Roxy got a haircut. Now, you may be wondering why I'm not using my grooming table. My grooming table is out on the back deck, and it is hydraulic. You pump it up like a beauty shop chair to raise it up and down, and I cannot pick it up by myself, and I didn't want to stand out in that kind of heat, and I didn't want Roxy to stand out in that kind of heat either. So we're doing it with beach towels on the kitchen table, chairs moved out of the way, which actually that worked out pretty good for me to be able to hook a leash to something so she didn't get brave and jump down. So what I'm doing right now is I'm brushing her out real good, because the clippers cut a lot better when you brush the hair out real good. And then I'm hand scissoring her face and head, which I always do that because it just turns out better with her hair being super curly. It's more like you're sculpting a shape out of her top knot instead of, just shaving one out. And I'm still not 100% groomer quality by any means, but I don't like to send Roxy to the groomer because she doesn't like the groomer. She went one time only. That's the only time she ever went. But when she came back home, you see how good she is. She stands there and all I have to do is keep turning her face around. But she didn't start doing that until she went to that groomer that time. Not the one we use, not KC's. Not sponsored, not affiliated with any groomer. But anyway, the one we went to, I won't name, I won't be petty, but Roxy was terrified, horrified. She looked good when she come home. But I don't know if it's because she'd never been and she was 3 years old or what happened, but it was back when I broke my leg back in December. And I could not put any weight on my foot for 3 months at all. So I wasn't even able to get out of my bedroom for a long time because I had to keep my foot up above my heart if I wasn't going to the restroom or something like that. Anyway, so what I'm doing now, I know, I apologize already that you can't see up close. I don't have a camera person. I couldn't zoom in. I couldn't get to zoom in for some reason. Next time I cut her hair, I'll try to do that. Now, on the part 2 of the video, I put the camera over on the other side of the kitchen, hoping that you might be able to see a little better. But anyway, I'm cutting an upside down V. I don't do a whole lot of cutting on her face. I just do the upside down V, like between her eyes and down onto her cheeks. And then I fluff up her top knot. And I just try to go straight up from her eyes, like sculpt out a straight up ledge. And then go across the top of her head and kind of round it out, but not super round. And then I go down on her ears, like just go ahead and round her head on out and go down at where her ears will blend to the top of her head. And I'm not trying to really teach you guys anything. I'm just saying what I'm doing, where. But I just keep looking and combing. Now I brushed her out, but now I'm combing to make sure that I can get all the hair pulled up to the same length. Side note, I used to have a license to do hair, and I just let it go because, after all those years, I did cut people's hair or do people's hair, that wanted me to, but I just didn't see any sense in paying that money and keeping those licenses up. But I did know how to cut hair, and I still do, but I will say cutting a dog's hair is way different, and the reason why is because they don't stand still like people do. On her legs, I could do her legs so much easier if she would just let me do it like people hair. But I guess her legs are ticklish, especially her front leg. And she'll just keep picking them up and moving them and all that. So I just do the best I can. to make them like in a stovepipe hair shape. And let's see, now there I'm blending on the top of her ears and just rounding the top of her ears out to be blended in with the top knot. And she'll keep trying to sit down, and I let her sometimes, if I'm not working in a certain area, I'll let her do that because she does get tired. I think the total groom today lasted about 3 hours, but I think that's about how long it takes a groomer. Of course, they're bathing the dog. I had already bathed her. And ideally, you'll trim your dog as soon as you blow dry it, bathe it and blow dry it, because the hair's all standing up good and it does cut better. But I have to say, today wasn't bad at all. She just got really wispy, fine hair like a person's hair. And on her legs, you just got to keep shaking the hair, shaking her leg, combing the hair up, shaking her leg, combing the hair up to get it to where it's halfway level. And I still noticed I've got one leg a little bit more round, thicker than the other one. So when I get rested up from all this, I'm going to go ahead and work on her front legs some more. And now I'm going down the side of her face, kind of sculpted out. Now on here, I pick up her ears, and right directly in front of her ears, I cut that pretty short. But then when you drop the ear back down, you can't really see. But I do that because it gets so hot inside of their ears. Paris and Boo are the same way. Their ears get hot. They get ear infections in the summer because that yeast just builds up in there sometimes. And I do try to keep their ears clean and everything, but it just doesn't matter. That moist heat that's in their ears will let them get an ear infection. So when I do her muzzle, her nose part, I comb the hair straight up on her sides of her lips and muzzle. And if I see any hair that's wet, super carefully, I cut the wet hair off, because that means it's in her mouth and it's getting around her teeth. And I hate that for her. But that's just a part of when their hair grows out on their muzzle. So I'll pick up all the hair, brush it straight up and hold it back out of the way. And then I'll go ahead and cut off all the hair that I see that's wet. And then I'll let the other hair drop back down where it should be, and that other hair won't get in her mouth because the actual hair that's close to her mouth is short. So let's see, I'm doing the sides of the face. Oh yeah, when I cut around her face, I start at the beard part, and I like to make it look like a kind of V, what's hanging down in the front bottom, and then I go up toward the ears and go up the edge of her jaw and all that up to her ears and make it rounded. But if you do that, watch her ears. Watch the ears, because those scissors, like the ones I use, are I think 9 inches long. And I use the curved scissors when I'm doing all this part right here. There's curved scissors and there's straight scissors. And I use the curved ones. So I'm just kind of chiseling out a good doodle shape on her face. And she's doing good, letting me. And then above her eyebrows, I'll go from the corner of the eye to the corner of the eye, and I'll go around and, straight down, just around her eyes to make that little ledge like a doodle has, and some little slight bangs so you can see her eyelashes and stuff. And then I'll go up and down. I think you can see where her top knot just starts going up and then it goes around. I just go up and down shape and just cut it like a hedge. It's just straight up and down, and then till I get to the top edge, and then I go back. And then I'll keep fluffing on it and looking at it and watching it. Now, while I'm repeating all this, I wanted to say something today. There was a comment that someone made that they work in a dog rescue and they spend a lot of time, they said, with golden doodles, or maybe it was just doodles in general, that get put in the shelter that won't behave or whatever. They're not socialized and stuff. Now, I'm not going to blame that on the golden doodle. I'm going to blame that 50% or more of it on the owners. So the reason I'm bringing that up, honestly, I hope no one misunderstands me. I think everybody, if they want a dog, they got the absolute right to have one. But if you work and nobody's going to be home all day, and you're getting a new puppy and you can't afford to take it to daycare, you really need to think long and hard about getting a puppy, because if you really want a good dog, you're going to have to spend a lot of time with it. And I'm not saying working people can't have a dog. They can't have a doodle. I mean, I want everybody to have a doodle that wants one. But if you can't, if you're going to just put it in a crate all day, it's not going to understand potty training, housebreaking. It's not going to understand how awesome it is to have friends and socialization. It's not going to understand how to be around people or other dogs. I'm not saying that 100% of the time that would happen, but I think it happens a whole lot more than what people realize. So, I mean, I'm just doing this so your heart's not going to get broken and the dog's heart's not going to get broken. I mean, I've been told that shelters don't have a whole lot of doodles because most reputable breeders take back a dog if someone can't handle it, if they just can't deal with it. Now, if you bring back a dog to me instead of the shelter wouldn't be paying you for it either. And the people that get the dog would probably pay a reduced price. I don't know. I think that just varies, and I don't know a whole lot about that just yet on that bring back program. But that's why I don't think there's going to be a super big amount of doodles in shelters, because for one thing, they're very expensive. And for another thing, most reputable breeders will take back the puppy. So, today I was told about someone that put their little dog, they got a little lap dog of some kind, they put it in obedience school. And they got several sessions, and it was $300. Now, that is money well spent. But let's just back up a little bit. If you call some of these doggy daycare places like we have near me and ask them what it costs for a week of daycare if you're going to be at work, you could do like one of my friends, just do that until you either get a second dog and that dog is more trained, or just do it like you would a child, because eventually your dog's going to get older. And it's going to start acting like an older dog, like we do, because we're older. And it's going to calm down a little bit if it's even doing anything wrong. But I mean, puppies chew. They want to run and rip all over the house because they're just full of energy. And I'm fortunate enough that on my jobs, I've got a couple of businesses and I work at a job for some people. And then now I'm doing these doodle things. But I can run in and out and potty my dogs and stuff. And it was, it was a little work when they were littler. But now they're very well housebroken. They can stay in the crate 6 hours and then some. And I'm always back home by 6 hours. So I'm just asking you to think about, do you have the room for the puppy? Do you have time for the puppy? Is everyone in the house dying to have a puppy and understands what that means? Maybe you should show the kids the, YouTube videos or something, have them read something that tells what kind of dedication it takes. And no, everybody's not going to be, Mr. Perfect every day. But I hate so bad, I've mentioned it before, I see these at Christmas time, people buy the puppy breeders out for doodles. I mean, I was looking for one at Christmas and ended up with two, but nobody had any that were quality because everybody buys their love of their life what they want, at Christmas if they can. So, but then a week or two later, because I drive, most of my jobs I'm driving, and I'll see all these puppies tied up outside on a 6-foot leash to the front porch, front step, shivering and crying, wanting back in the house. The people are frustrated. The puppy's probably going to freeze to death. It's probably going to end up getting dumped. I hope nobody does that, but that does happen. Or get dumped at a shelter. Someday I'm going to tell some dog horror stories and cat horror stories that I know for a fact have happened. And I'll be gentle when I tell them. But that's another reason. I mean, I hate to see that happen to puppies, because almost every time whatever you yourself as a pet owner put into a puppy or a dog, that you're going to get that out of it and more. And if you need help with it, seek help. Ask somebody. Ask Grandma, would you like to watch your granddog for me because I'm having a hard time? And a lot of people are lonely and they would jump at the chance to do that. So But, think about it before you get one. I know golden doodles are expensive, but it's because they're a quality. Their health has been checked. Their bones have been checked. They have paid attention. The breeders have paid attention to who the parents are going to be and should they be bred together according to their DNA for health issues and things like that, because they can breed health issues out of them. They can breed temperament into them sometimes. And do you have the room out in your yard for a dog to run? Now, my 2 girls, they're puppies. They're right at 9 months old. And I do have to let them outside quite often in the day, even as hot as it is, because I can tell a difference in them. They just want to start fussing, and not fussing with each other, but just like, I don't know, getting toys and shaking them and just being puppies. But they're a little wild and they bump into my furniture and stuff, and I have to take them outside. I let them run 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on how hot it is. They come back in the house and they're sleeping. They're doing it right now. One of them's laying in the dog bed, and the other one's laying in the floor because it's cooler on her. I hope I don't sound preachy, because I do not know anything except I know what I see. And then I wanted to say, if you do go ahead and say, I think we can do this, and you get a puppy, and I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, you get a puppy. Just make sure somebody's on board, like designate the job to this one or that one, for the day, and then everybody gets a day off from the puppy. Make sure you clean up the mess if there is a mess. There's all kinds of videos on YouTube about how to housebreak your dog, and everybody's got a different idea, but the goal is always the same. The destination's the same. You just want them to understand how to potty outside. I had a broken leg. We were challenged. These litter mates wrestling like they do. I'm working on stopping that, because Paris gets too rough with Bougie, because Bougie's more meek and quiet, and Paris is loving and sweet too, but she also loves to get wild and run and rip, and she's bigger than Bougie. She's a little bit bigger than her, taller and everything. So just make sure everybody's on board. Make sure you can afford the dog. Make sure you can afford to buy it good food, because that'll matter. Make sure you can at least take it for its vet checkups. Keep it healthy, keep it worm-free. And I feel like most people do that. But I just want, everybody to have a good experience. And I don't want the shelters to be able to say it's the Doodle's fault because the Doodle ended up in the shelter. And, all this stuff. I don't know. I mean, I've not seen that. Roxy's one of the most meek dogs I've ever had, and so is Bougie and Paris. They are puppies right now. Roxy's not a puppy, but Roxy's never been anything but awesome, and Bougie and Paris. So I don't know. I know it's not 100% of the time, but I think sometimes that the dogs are just frustrated and they just need to get their chewing out of the way. I've got some bones, raw bones, a long time ago, and they have long since chewed the stuffing out of the bones. But now I get peanut butter and smeared up a thin layer up inside the bone with a butter knife, and they can smell that peanut butter, and they'll work all day trying to get that peanut butter out there. Just give them something to do like that. They love the flavor of the peanut butter, and they love to, they work their energy out, and they bite on the stuff. They've almost got all their teeth cut. I check their teeth and see which baby teeth have fallen out. I don't know. I don't know what else to say right now. But back on the grooming, I know you've probably seen me. I brush up on the feet and shake her leg, and brush up on the feet and shake her leg and cut. And on the legs, what I'm doing, if I see anything sticking out longer than what I want it to be, on the tube, I do her legs in a tube, then I cut that off. And now I'm putting, go up and down on the legs, by the way, up and down motion, and just cut off what you see, brush up, cut off, brush up, cut off until you get it right. On the feet, I put them on the table, flat on the table, and I just cut a box around her feet, all the way around, on the sides, front, and back. And then I brush up again and see if there's anything I missed, and I cut that. And it makes like what they call teddy bear feet. I just go around and around and go only up to the toenail with the box, the boxy cut. And on the sides, just go down the sides of the feet. Don't cut their feet, And I'll brush up on her feet. Her feet hair was pretty long today on top of her toes, so I brushed it up and just cut about half of it off and brushed it back down. And I do have some little sprigs of hair still sticking up on her. But me and her both got wore out, so I'm going to wait till maybe tomorrow and stand her up on the table and get those two legs leveled out because one's a little bit skinnier than the other one on the hair. And but I don't know if I lost the footage or if it's on part 2, but I had on there where I was cutting her tail. Now, before I get to the tail, when you're cutting their hair, this is something I didn't know. You can go over and over and over and over these Doodles' hair, and then you'll get a smooth finish like a groomer. You got to go, but you got to keep going over it, and you'll think, oh, I've done it and nothing else is coming out. Well, I'll brush the hair back and do it again, and I'll get more and more hair, and you'll see that. It'll just keep uncurling a little bit, and then I'll cut it, and then I'll brush it up, and it'll cut more because a lot of it that wasn't sticking up as high as the other is sticking up because I brushed up some more. So that's how you do that. And on the tail, if you want its tail to be down to that little bump, see on the back of her leg, that little hawk thing they call it, there's a bump there. They say to have their tails about that long. Well, you can see hers is a lot longer than that, even though I love their tails not to be touched. So I go down to the end of her tail, feel her tail, and, pull all the hair through, with my hand. Feel the end of her tail, and I just go out quite a bit from that and just cut that straight off. And I don't know if it's shown on this video or on part 2, but I just pull her tail straight out and shake it out. And what's hanging down, I cut it in the same shape it's in. Just, go down through there and just trim on it so it's all one length and it looks good and healthy. And so I'm still working on that front leg. And also when they get tired of you working on an area, you don't have to keep working on that area. You can just put it down and go to the feet pads or go to the ear hair. Just move to something else until... because they get tired. See, I'm brushing up on everything. And that way it makes that hair stick up. And you probably I don't know what kind of length you might want. But I go the same length on the legs because it makes them look all ropey. If you shave up the other way with a clipper guard, even though it seems like it's easier, it's best to go just one direction on that. And then on the feet pads, you got to be super careful that you don't get those clippers in there and cut their feet pads. But also always look and make sure they're not getting mats in their feet, up in their pads, because those are painful too. But now I brush Roxy every day, and if I see a mat starting, I know how to do it, so I'll get the scissors out and cut it out. But you got to be super careful because their feet are hard to heal up if they get cut or get something, that's tender in there, and it's hard to heal them up. I think actually, and I don't know this 100%, but I think their blood supply in their feet's a little bit, different than in the rest of their body. But just be sure you don't cut their feet pads, but don't let them get their feet pads full of mats. And then whenever I did her ears just now, I just took the clippers, flipped her ears over. I don't even know if it showed on the video, but I flipped her ears over and shaved on the inside of the ears, the flap and all around the ear hole, but then I pluck the inside of the ears, which I do that all the time, and I didn't do it on this one because, I'll just be sitting here like, every other week, and, of an evening, and I'll just call her over there to me and pull her hair out of her ears if I can get a hold of any. I've got ear powder, just in case I need to pluck out some of her hair and I can't get a hold of it. And don't stick anything down in their ear. Now, if you want to clean their ear with a cotton ball with some kind of, malicetic iotic ear cleaner fluid on there, ask your vet about that. But if you want to use that, that's fine. But, put it on a cotton ball and just kind of barely stick that cotton ball in there. Don't cram it way down in there and lose it in their ear hole. But keep their ears clean. Try not to get any water in their ears because it gives them ear infections too. And when you give them a bath, hold their head backwards. I do that on her. I hold her head backwards. And I wash her eyes out. I use no more tear shampoo, but it's for dogs. You can use the kind for people, I'd say. And I scrub her face real good because Doodles get a dirty face. And when their hair's starting to grow out on their face, it's even worse. It traps everything they eat, oils and everything from food they eat. And Roxy gets a lot of bacon grease on her food, and she gets a raw egg on her food and stuff like that. So she gets bored too, with what she eats. So there I am working on that leg again. See, I'm fluffing, I'm shaking that leg. When you do that after you've brushed it, all the hair that's a little too long will stick out, and then you just snip it off. And you'll do this, and it'll look horrible a few times. Maybe more than a few, or maybe you'll be great at it the first time. But that's how it is with her. I just cut her hair. In the summer, I usually, cut it down super, super short at the first of summer. Then by August, she's needed a good haircut. Her hair was couple inches long, maybe, when I started cutting it. And now I can bury my fingers in it, and it just barely goes to my fingers. Like if I hold my hand out flat on her back, it barely comes up. I just keep working on that leg, and I keep hoping I've got some other footage of me doing her back and her tail. Now, when you want to do the belly, it'll probably show on the other video, but I'm not sure because I have dumped a bunch. I probably dumped 30 minutes off of this footage because of just hanging in one place, working on one place. But you can lay them on their side, and you can do their belly. Make sure the clipper guard stays cool. I've got some spray that you can spray on the clipper guard, or the clipper blade. You take it out of the Andis 5-speed clipper, which is what I use. There's all kinds of professional clippers, but get a professional set because the cheap ones in the stores just are not going to cut like these do. These cut like butter. But there's 5 speeds to it. So I spray her blade, or I keep a spare. Now, I've got a spare of everything except my 30 blade. That's a surgical blade, I believe. Now, don't quote me on that, but I think it is. I don't use that much. But I do shave her belly with a Andis 10-speed clipper blade, 10-speed, 5-speed clipper blade. I shave her belly. I shave her landing strip, almost. Not shaved, completely slick, but very, very short. And then I go under her tail, and I bevel the top part of her tail where it joins onto her body, just so it's cooler and cleaner for her. And let's see. See, I'm going over and over the sides, make sure all that hair's off. And see, I don't know how many times. I probably went over the sides 4 or 5 times. But I can tell by how she's hanging her head down. She's not too tired to get her hair cut, but she's stressing out, and she wants to take a break. So it won't be very much longer till I'll let her have a break. I'll let her have, 30 minutes to an hour. If somebody calls me on the phone, I'm not going to stress about it. I'll just talk to that person until we're done talking, and then I'll go find Roxanne and finish her hair. That's how we do it. See, there's some more underneath of her chin that I decided to make a little bit smaller or shorter. But I have to say, her face and head turned out really good this time. And I cut her ears. I cut about 1 inch of hair off her ears. And you always want to feel that ear leather. Make sure you're not cutting into that if you cut your dog's hair. You just make sure you can feel that and cut below your fingers and well below them, so you don't have accidents. You don't want to cut your dog. So I'm going and I'm blending the top knot in with the neck. I think I've already taken off her leash at this point because she kept pulling against it anyway. Her feet kept sliding out from under her just real slow because she had hair under her feet pads. And I kept trying to clean it off, and then the table was so slick she'd keep sliding too. But I just did that this way so she wouldn't have to be out in that heat. And sitting in the floor with her is not an option because she will just get up and run off, or she'll lay down. She just won't stand up like she will. Now, if I've got her on a grooming table, she's super easy because she stands there. And I've got one of those dog up stands that my favorite groomer has. I don't know if she even has them anymore, but I'm not sponsored by her. I'm not affiliated with her at all. But she created this thing. It's shaped like a dog bone, and it's on a pole, and you can put it under their belly. And if they decide they want to sit down, it'll stop them from it, or they can rest on it. But it won't let them go very much farther than they are when they're standing up. But her her YouTube channel is myfavoritegroomer.com, I think. If you want to see if she's even still got those things. I've had this one at least 3 years. Because like I said, Roxy's never gone to a groomer but once. I keep watching for this video to run out. I'm not too sure how close we are to running out. I might make the second one a little shorter because I know watching that from that far off is kind of probably not real interesting to you guys. But I keep trying to get... I have a GoPro camera and it's always dead. I never do charge it up. I just end up using my phone. No excuse, I know. But that's what I end up doing one of these days when life slows down a little bit. I'm going to try to use my GoPro camera. I already talked about the landing strip, cleaning that up. I dremeled her toenails. Did I share where I dremeled her toenails the other day? I can't remember. I think I did. But that's all done. Her ears are done. The hair's cut out of her mouth. The main things that worry me. Her landing strip's clean. Her sanitary. Because, them poor things, they have to go out in the yard and use the bathroom, and they can't take a shower every night like us. So you want to help them all you can. And help them to be able to be comfortable. So there, I'm just kind of shaping up and working on the same places again. I'm getting close to break time. I just can't remember how much I cut back the video. But I cut quite a bit of it back. But you just see me keep going. I've got the comb. And the one I checked to make sure I've gotten all the hair brushed. If your comb will go through their hair, then they're brushed enough. There's no mats in them. But I take her comb and flip the hair backwards with that if it's real short. And it helps me cut off any hair that's sticking out. And 2, I'm over there trying to get on that other side because she didn't want to let me turn her around. But she did okay. She at least got her hair cut. But anyway, that's what this rest of this is going to be about. There's just a few more minutes left. And I just hope that you enjoyed watching Roxy get half her hair cut. And I'll post the other part next. Maybe not. If I don't get it today, I'll definitely get it tomorrow. And I hope that I made sense very kindly about thinking about getting a dog and realizing whether or not you really can keep it so it doesn't have to change homes. And, a low shedding or, they say don't call them hypoallergenic, but listen, my Doodles are really good. They really are good on that. I mean, that kind of dog is a good dog to have. And just always remember, you've got a few months to get through. If they chew on something they're not supposed to chew on, catch them at it, give them something they can have. Tell them no about what they can't have. That's the easiest way to get them to leave your stuff alone. That's what I do with mine. And that's about all else I know of that I can share with you that I've done with mine so far. And I've had 2 other sets of dogs that I've done those things with. But anything you don't understand what to do with your dog, just get on YouTube and do a search and find somebody. Cesar Milan's got good videos about dog training. There's a lot of people out there that do. And just find one that you feel like you agree with and learn from that person. Or try calling some obedience people. Whatever you need to do.